Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 19 here in the Systematic Factory. We are still getting magma brought up here to our magma chamber, and I did notice that we do, in fact, get every once in a while some of the magma cools just enough that it turns into igneous rock. I'm going to keep an eye on that, make sure it doesn't happen too often, because that would sort of defeat the point of bringing magma up here, because I don't want really hot igneous rock, I want magma. But we are ready to turn on our petroleum boiler here. That's going to be the focus of our episode today. I have not fired this one up yet. I am going to do it as the build guide that I did suggested. I have a valve connected to it. I can connect it, and we're going to put in 1 kilogram per second to start. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that we are not overpowering this heat and putting in too much oil, because if we have oil flowing down here, it's going to cause us massive headaches. So the other thing is that with 1 kilogram a second going through the pipe, even if it overheats because of the heat transfer, it won't crack the pipe, because with 1 kilogram, 10% of what's in a pipe is too small to cause any problems. So if it boils in there, it'll continue to go. But we can monitor the heat and see where it's at. I'm sure I'm going to have to change some of these pipes into insulated liquid pipes. That's why I left this area the way I did, so that we can get in to do maintenance on it. But now we have oil coming out. You can see as the oil comes out, it is quickly turning into petroleum as soon as it goes in. So the petroleum is filling up and flowing down our our heat counter exchanger here. So we're exchanging heat from the oil inside the pipe with the petroleum in here. So the counterflow heat exchanger is the word that I was looking for. My brain is a little tired. But so the crude oil coming up through is picking up heat from the petroleum, and so the petroleum coming down is cooling down. So basically the crude oil is getting up here. When it gets to the top, it's already at a temperature where it's going to be hot enough to turn into petroleum, or very close to it. And that way we don't need to add more temperature in, or we don't have to add a lot more temperature in, and we can continue to have a constant flow of petroleum. So if I'm looking here, right towards the end, we're hitting like 405. Anything over 402, actually anything over 401.9 is going to be causing us to have broken pipes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start with that. And then in here are at 399.6. So we'll turn those over to insulated pipes made out of granite, and we'll let it just keep flowing for a while and see how we go. It will have to be adjusted constantly as we ramp up the speed, because as we're flowing through more crude oil, the heat change between them is going to be different, and we're also going to be having more petroleum flowing down, because right now we only have 1 kilogram per second going in, so we only have 1 kilogram per second flowing out. When we get this up to full speed, we'll have 10 kilograms of oil going in at a time, which means we'll have 10 kilograms per second of petroleum flowing its way down to this pump. This pump's going to take the petroleum once it gets to the point where this is saturated and full, and pump it up here into these storage tanks, and then the storage tanks are all going to flow down and go off to our power plant. So we're going to just let this go for a little bit until we get I'm going to leave it at 1 kilogram per second until we get enough petroleum here that we have petroleum flow going out, and then we'll evaluate and see if there's any changes we need to make before we increase it up to 5 kilograms per second. And then if that is successful, we will ramp it up to 10 kilograms per second. We have plenty of oil up here. We have 10 kilograms per second flowing in to keep these stocked, so we definitely won't have a problem with the oil coming out. And we have plenty of water getting pumped down. We have an independent pump that's going straight down to keep the oil flowing. So we definitely will not have any problems with flow, and we will have the petroleum coming out. As far as this, I have a big backlog in case we need it, but I have this set up with the automation in our power plant that ideally This will handle 10 kilograms per second of petroleum flow in, meaning that once we have this running, these are just gonna run full bore. There is automation set up on them for these, but I'm going to probably make it so that they are disconnected and they just run all the time, because once we have a full flow of petroleum, these generators running 100% of the time is not a problem, because they generate more water than we need to continue to produce the petroleum. And so we can do it in effect forever. I might leave it like it is for now, just because I'm still working on getting my magma topped up, because we didn't have this volcano open for super long. As you can see, it says it's about to erupt, but it's going into dormancy phase, which means that we will not have magma coming for a while. And we are bringing it up from the bottom, but that is a tedious process just to get things going earlier rather than waiting for the volcano to be active. Once we're done, this volcano should provide more than enough magma to keep this system running. And as you can see, we already have quite a bit of petroleum being converted right now, and there's tons of heat in here. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that the heat is continuing to stay as high as it is. I guess it got a little higher than I wanted. It shouldn't be having any more heat come through. I mean, it should be cooling it down as the oil comes in, but we're not pumping a lot of oil in, so I guess it makes sense. But what I want to make sure is I don't want this to go so high with heat that it turns into sour gas, and I also don't want it to not get enough heat from here that it ends up turning into oil flow coming back out. Those are two things that could be a real problem. So let's see, where are we at with this here? We're at 270. I think I'm going to ramp this up a little bit more. Let's go to 2,500 grams per second. We'll need a duplicate to come down here and switch that. But then we can see how things are going. As far as temperatures, this is nice and cool going into those. So what I want to see is, does the extra flow cause issues with the temperatures in the pipes? And if it's still staying at the temperatures that it's at here, I could add a couple more radiant pipes back in. But I'd rather be cautious than not, because I don't want to have broken pipes if I can avoid it. So we're just going to let it flow, and we're going to see what happens. So now this has been increased to 2,500 grams per second. So if we go to our pipe overlay, you can see the flow has been increased. Temperatures all still look good. So let's watch as this pumping goes through. The temperatures, right now we're hitting 395.6. Once this flow gets up there where it's increased flow, I want to see what the temperatures are at. It may actually cool down at first because we are pumping more cooler crude oil in. But once we get the flow up there, now it's up there and dropping in, we're going to be making more petroleum faster, which means we'll have more hot petroleum coming through, and it will balance itself out. It's just, we have to watch this area right here to see if we're going one direction too far, either too cold or too hot. Okay, so the volcano is now erupting, which should be the last one from this cycle. And then after that, it'll go into its dormancy. Oh, autosave, you are my friend. I missed you so. What is that right there? It looks like there's something inside my system here that should not be. Oh, there's molten lead in there. What got melted? Ah, I must have made the filter gate out of lead. That's why this isn't working. Okay, well, first of all, let's do a new filter gate. We'll make it out of steel. Filter gate made out of steel. We'll go right there. Let's do a high priority on that. We're going to have to go back in there to get that lead out of there at some point. For now, I think I'm going to leave it because we're going to have to build a vacuum lock to get in there to do it. But it's definitely going to cause us some problems later on if we don't fix it. Okay, so somebody needs to bring me some steel to fix this. The automation for this is... This was 15 seconds. This is 1 second, so this will be 13 seconds. But that's why this is not dropping down. Fortunately, we still have enough heat, so it's not an issue. And we'll have heat transfer coming through these doors. It just won't be as effective as if this automation is working the way it's supposed to. There we go. We have some more heat injecting in. It's only for a few seconds just to bring the temperature up. See, the temperature went all the way up to 410 and then it's shut off. So we're barely using any magma to keep this system running, which is why once we have this stockpiled in the back stock in there, we won't have too much to worry about. So this is supposed to be 13 seconds, which means... Oh, it didn't matter right now anyway because this system is so hot that we're not injecting any more heat. So until this goes below 700 degrees, it's not even going to ask for any more magma. So we're good. The issue with getting this lead out is that we have already done that for a couple other things up here that we had to do, and it let a lot of the steam out. So I think when we go in to get that, I'm going to have to build a liquid lock here to make a vacuum. I'm also probably going to have to bring in some more water to add to the system to get it back up to the point where we have enough in there. 500 kilograms should be enough, but if I let out a lot more, it might start cooling it down, and I do not want that. So here we go. We're up to 400. We're almost at the point where we're going to start pumping petroleum out. Looks like we're still having no problems with magma getting emptied out here. I don't know why we had issues up here. I'll have to just keep an eye on it, see if I can't figure out why it does that. So he's bringing magma over, dropping it off into this one. And this one. And they seem to be fine. Maybe it was just a fluke. Yeah, there we go. Empty those out just fine. We'll have to make sure we keep an eye on this. I don't want to overflow the magma in here. Let's check out on the bottom and see how our magma emptying project is going. Pretty good. We started with 7 tons in here, now we're down to 2. So we're pulling it out pretty good. Like I said, we'll extend this down. Once we're done, we'll pull these pitcher pumps out and we'll move them down just a little bit so we can get a little more magma down. I just want to take out the magma in here for now. I don't want to get into this big section of magma yet. I may do some of the other smaller ones here. Eventually I want to build some more things down here, and that's one of the reasons why I'm emptying the magma out, but mostly to keep the petroleum boiler running and starting it up a little earlier than I had been able to with just the volcano. But everything's working really well. You can see that it's got plenty of heat and it's using very little magma, which is, I like that in this design. It looks like it doesn't take a lot of magma to keep it going. The steam retains the heat very well. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to let this run for a while until we get to the point where we're flowing out petroleum, and then we're going to make some changes so that we're not producing petroleum using our old method, and hopefully the petroleum we're getting from the top is enough to power the entire base. We can decommission these refineries. We'll still have them there just so that they can make petroleum for this system, but it'll just do it until we get a back stock of petroleum there and are done. We could potentially hook up the petroleum coming in from the top to keep this full too, but I don't think that's necessary. I've slowly ramped up our crude oil flow using our liquid valve, and we're now at 10 kilograms per second. It's coming in here just fine, and we have a good solid flow of petroleum out. Petroleum is actually coming out cooler than I was expecting it to be. It's like 70 degrees, which is great. The oil's going in is 65, so I guess that makes sense. Sending in cool oil, it's changing its heat. I'm keeping an eye on it just to make sure we're not using up the heat faster than we can produce it, because that would mean that the oil in here stays oil too long. But I think that it should be fine, especially because the oil is coming in at the bottom and the petroleum is being forced out the top. In the past, I've always had the oil drop in down here, and it's basically the same because the oil is heavier, it should go to the bottom. But the way we have it here, it kind of forces the petroleum to flow correctly. I don't know if that is actually how it works, but that's how it is. It works in my head. We're still well over 800 degrees in here, so this system hasn't kicked on to pull in any magma. It's just using it's just using the flow of heat that we already have, because we have quite a bit of heat stored in this steam from the time where we were getting the oil to first turn into petroleum. We'll have to wait and see what happens when we get to the point where we are pulling in more heat from the magma. The next thing we did is, now that we have petroleum flowing out, and it should be constant now. We had a drop in it there. I wonder if that's because of the pressure on this sensor. Should be fine now. This is at 600. Let's set this a little lower. We'll go down to 500. I don't want this to go below 500 because I want to make sure that there is petroleum in there for the pump, because otherwise there can be some things with the heat where the pump overheats, but that's not a problem. As far as the heat from our oil here goes, we're getting up to like 374. So I think I'm going to do this just a couple at a time, but I'm going to add in 2 more aluminum pipe sections here to try to get a little more heat out of this petroleum before we go into the insulated pipe, because I want it to flash to petroleum instantly, and I'm seeing oil sit there just for a few seconds, which means I'm not getting the maximum amount of heat that I can out of this counterflow heat exchanger. So we'll do 2 more, and then we'll continue to add more if we need to. Nice thing about the way this is set up, since there's space for our duplicants to get through there, even if we mess this up, they can fix anything in here that breaks. But so we have the petroleum flowing out. It's a steady flow now. Pretty much. There's some gaps, but we have petroleum coming down this way, and it is going into our system here. Let me cut this off, because that's why it's not flowing past. I had disconnected it on this side, but I didn't disconnect this part, so it was messing with the pipe balancing. So now all 5 of our petroleum generators are running, and that's going to keep our power up. Or these are going to shut off. Let me check what the automation is set at. When we get to 90%, they kick back on at 50%. I think I'm going to leave it at that for now until we get a back stock of petroleum. But like I said, later on, we'll probably set it so that they just burn, because then we'll have extra power, and it will be fine, because we're making more polluted water, which we can convert into water and then back into oil and complete the loop. We'll actually get more water out of the system than we put in, so we can actually use the water for other things like crops or whatever. But we have plenty of water still. We're barely tapped into the water on the map. The only thing that I'm pumping water out of is the polluted water setups that I did early on. I have this one here. I have this one in here. And where was the third one? Oh, the third one's down here. So we're getting that, but we haven't tapped into our salt water. We have 2 of those. We haven't tapped into any of our steam vents or cool steam vents. I don't know that we would need to at this point, because we are still just using the water that we got when we collected all the water from the map together. There's so much water in this map, and that makes the map a little too easy. I think for I think for the next playthrough that we do down the road, we're definitely going to try to ramp up the difficulty settings, because this one is still a pretty easy map, but like it's just not, the damage just isn't that hard. We have cold damage going on down here. What's that about? Oh. Oh, it's because there's steam. Where's steam coming from? I have no idea. But if we look in our filter here, we have, oh, that's oxygen. No, but there it is. There's steam inside there. And so it picked up steam somewhere and it put it in there. It must have been some heat transfer that we got from something. It might have been some trapped in here and it got stuck in there. Okay, we'll just have to repair some pipes. Eventually it'll work itself out because the steam will cool down to the point where it breaks the pipes in here. That's what all this water down here is for. And it will get gone because we don't have a continuing supply of it. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. Okay, so we have the petroleum is good here. It's running. Let's go back up and check our tanks up here at our petroleum plant. We're starting to get a little bit of a backstock in some of the reservoirs, which is good. Our heat here is just fine. In here, we're still over 800. I haven't pulled any magma in yet. We're still just using up the heat from this system. So we're just going to let that go for now, see if we have any problems. I'm only going to go in and get this lead if it starts to cause a problem. I have a feeling that it's going to when I save and restart, and that's when I'm going to have to get it. Ooh, what was overheated? Wait and see when it pops back up. Surprisingly, this is running really well. So far, as far as the heat system in this petroleum setup, I really like this setup. It's working really good. I've always used a setup that uses a robo miner to break the rocks once they solidify. So basically, instead of cooling the magma down to debris, we cool it into a tile, and then we have to mine the tile so that we can keep the system going. And they work once you get them set up, but they're pretty touchy to get set up, and they can sometimes lead to problems like gases and stuff because they heat up the petroleum by accident. This has been, the setup was a little tricky, mostly because I used the wrong materials, but if you're really careful, you wouldn't have that issue. But once you get it set up, it's done pretty much. So I like this. I recommend it. I will put a link to the guide that I used. I forgot to do that in the last episode. I'll go back and do that, but I'll put it on this one as well. So I'm going to let this run just for a while longer, see how things are testing, and then before we call this episode done, I will check back in and see where we are with the petroleum. As far as the future goes, now we have a sustainable power supply, we have sustainable water supply, we have sustainable oxygen supply, so pretty much we can do anything we want at this point. I think that we should probably spend our next episode working on getting a just an idea of where we're at. We'll go through the achievements and decide what we want to do next, prioritize wise, to get the achievements done. There's not too many left to do other than getting into space, so there's a pretty good chance we'll be working on space sooner rather than later. I found something that I think must be a bug, but I'm not positive. I have this biobot. He's been transporting magma. His biofuel is completely out. It's been like that for a couple of cycles. He still just continues to go back and forth, grabbing magma and taking it up. As far as I understand, when they run out of biofuel, they are supposed to shut down, and then you have to make a new one and deconstruct them for steel. I'm not really upset about it because I'm getting a lot of free transportation of magma at the moment. But if I continue to make more biobots and the old ones don't go away, I'm very quickly going to have my map filled with biobots. So, just definitely something that I got to watch out for. I think that I figured out the steam issue, by the way. It's a good time to hop off to show it. I had some water down here. Our biobots coming through. We look at them, because they're hauling magma, their temperature is pretty hot. So the water that was sitting here got turned into steam. This gas pump picked it up, put it into the pipe as steam. It breaks the pipes, turns back into water, lands back here. And so biobots are just constantly steaming up this area, causing it to go through. So what I think I need to do to fix it is to probably have a system where the steam can escape from this system. I don't have anywhere to put another filter at the moment, but in the past what I've done is I just put a filter with a gas shutoff for the steam, which allows the steam to come out, and then it goes through into a vent, and it vents out. That way the steam goes out and it turns back into water because it's cooled down. I'll probably set that up at some point, but for now, I'm not going to worry about it. Looks like these guys are almost done pumping this stuff out, which means I'm going to have to let Jerry back in here to dig out some more of this so that they can get back down to doing more. I guess I need to do some Swiss cheese work so he can get across to do it, though. But let's let him in. He can do that, then we'll get rid of these pumps and move him back down. I don't know that I'm really going to need all that much magma up here. I also am still getting this issue with sometimes the magma solidifying. If anybody has a link to a video that explains how that works and what I need to do to make that not happen, send it my way. But let's check this out. So we have Petroleum has been building up. Our backup tank is now up to a little over a third full, almost half full, and that's 2 of them. So we're definitely getting a surplus of petroleum. The heat here is fine. Oh no, I was looking at the wrong thing. I was looking at the volume and thought that was the heat. Whew. The heat's still doing great in here. Petroleum is flowing just fine. Our heat in here is still up in the 800s, so we haven't had to pull anything else in to heat this area up. Like I said, this got overheated quite a bit while we were starting the system up because we needed a lot of heat to get the oil to initially turn into petroleum. And now we only need a small amount of heat to continue to keep it where it needs to be. So it's going to be a while before this drops down to the point where we're pulling more magma in. And so we'll probably make it through till the next activity on this and we can shut down these, but I still want to get some extra magma up here. We can always expand this tank if we need to hold it so we have more or whatever. See, there we got another one that's solidifying. It's going to be an issue, but Jerry's coming down here and digging us a hole. I want him to go across and dig these. He'll have to dig that. And then we'll get these last 2, and then he can go back out. Our biobots can do the rest. Come on, Jerry, don't build ladders, dig holes. Okay, good. So now we can do dig priority 6 on this one after that's done. And then we'll do the same on this one. And then Jerry can leave and go back to his life. And the biobots will do the work. Dig the thing! Dig the thing, Jerry! I am very much enjoying the biobot stuff. I think it's pretty cool. It is a little buggy, I think, still. I think the things are not quite working exactly how I expect them to. And it could be a bug, or it could be that I just don't understand them quite that well. But, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on those, on the little buggers. That's a duplicate. The mechs, I mean, the biobots must be disappearing at some point. I don't know where they're going, but the I don't have all of them anymore. So where would their bodies be? I think I need to follow one to find out what's happening to them, to see if I'm recovering the steel from their bodies or what. This one I'm not sure. He's going to store materials. He has ceramic and he has magma. Why are you not taking the magma and putting it away? And where did you get the ceramic? So many questions. Anyway, I could watch this all day. I probably will. But our petroleum boiler is working really well. This is going to give us power for quite some time. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.